How is your day going aside from having to talk to media?
Oh, it's going great, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with you today.
It is my pleasure. It is always a pleasure to connect with you because I was thinking about it the other day. The first time I saw you was your television debut on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and that was over 20 years ago. I mean, did you think back then, hey, I'm still going to be doing this 20 years from now?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely was hoping to have a long career doing music for sure.
But this new album is self-titled, and usually when somebody does a self-titled album, it's a big statement unto itself. It's like a rebirth or it's a return to form. Did you know outright when you were making the album, hey, this is the self-titled one?
No, I didn't really know. I didn't really know until we started looking at other title names, and it didn't really feel like they encompassed the real meaning of the record. And yeah, it's sort of what you're talking about, and certainly the concept of being home. Making the album at home, being home during COVID and all of that time, felt like a returning to self in a way, family, and the core things.
Well, the first track I heard from the album was Keep Coming Back for More. When was that written in the overall process? Sometimes you hear that the single that people talk about was the last thing written for the record, that it was a last minute addition that just happened out of nowhere. Where was this one written in the mix?
Let's see. Well, I can tell you exactly when it was written because the lyrics are ST sleeping. She was born last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a week after my daughter was born on March 20th. So it must have been like around March 25th or 7th or something like that. And yeah, I don't remember exactly where it was in the process. I know it wasn't at the very beginning. I don't think it was the very end. I don't think it was the very end. Somewhere probably in the middle.
But sometimes when the single is the last minute addition, that's the product of an A&R person, of course, going, we need a hit that sounds like this. But working with 30 Tigers, you are in the driver's seat. You're controlling your own destiny. I have to imagine that is a refreshing thing for you.
Yeah, it's great. After it's been quite a few years now that I've been kind of putting out records on my label Fallen Sparks through 30 Tigers, but I have a lot of people that I've been working with since back in the old days at Epic. So yeah, it's great. It's great to have the control, the creative control. But I've gotten lots of good feedback over the years, even when I was at major labels. Like, for example, what you're talking about is exactly what happened with One Day, and
Really?
thank God. Look at what happened. Yeah, the Light album didn't have One Day on the initial album. So, and literally the A&R was like, we need a hit, and we went and wrote that song with Bruno Mars before he had a record deal.
The Sneezing Tins or the Smeezing Tins, was that the name of his group?
That's right. That was his production group.
And it's incredible because what I know offhand about One Day, beyond it being this big hit, was it was this unofficial Olympics theme song. Then there was a viral video of you performing it with a guy who didn't realize that you were in the room. And so that song has just had such a wonderful life that a lot of people might have went, well, King Without a Crown, that's the hit that he hangs the hat on. But One Day was even bigger than that.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, we had a lot of great radio support at King Without a Crown, and we had very little with One Day. But it's one of those songs that over time just kind of snowballs and gets bigger as it goes, based on just the fact that it is just a hit by what it is, not because of because someone pushed a button and made it explode.
Well, as you said, Fallen Sparks is your label. So is it a case of you go, I'm going to make an album, and then you finish it and you go, hey, 30 Tigers, hey, who wants to partner with me? Or did you know outright, hey, 30 Tigers, that's the destination?
No, typically it's a situation where I make the record, and then afterwards see who's interested. And 30 Tigers has always been super supportive and come to the table with great support. So we actually are doing it again with them. And they started with me with Spark Seeker, with Sunshine and all of that. So.
And the album obviously wasn't finished last week or last month. As a creative person, are you already thinking about your next album, or is it one cycle at a time? Slow down, man.
Well, the way that I work is like, I listen to a lot of music. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like the first step in my process of my writing process. So, and I find that sometimes is the longest part of the process, is just like waiting around and finding songs as they come out, or discovering them, and basically, finding myself inspired again, by new music. And then, and then through that process, I come to a point where I get to like a point of inspiration where I kind of say, okay, I'm ready to start writing now. And then I sort of pull out my notebook. Or my phone, whatever now. And I start writing a lot of lyrics about ideas and concepts about where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third part of my process is finding and creating the music with the right producers, and then putting down the vocals and arranging all the vocals from this mess, that I've come up with. And then by the end of that period of time, I'm usually feel pretty satisfied in terms of like writing lyrics, writing ideas, concepts, and all of that, and the musicality of it. And I'm ready to like go out on the road and start like connecting with people and connect and playing the music live, trying to figure out how to take this album and translate it live with musicians on stage with an audience there. And how can we, what happens when you have live energy added to the mix there. And then, so there is definitely a whole process. And then usually, somewhere like at the end of that process, starts again. I start really listening a lot more. Now with COVID and everything, sort of like, everything has been delayed. So, I've been sitting around with the album for a little bit of time and haven't toured with it yet or anything like that. So it kind of stopped, and I'm already on to that next process where I'm starting to get ready to start writing. But I'm going to have to jump out of that headspace and get back into this album as we, it hasn't even come out yet. So,
right.
Now that I'm talking about it again, it's kind of like getting my head back in there. And it was like this weird kind of like pause but it feels good to be finally the album being released very soon now.
I can imagine. And we do know that you have some upcoming gigs that are high profile. There's the 2 nights at the Belly Up Tavern. But I would say more interesting to me is the Beach Life Festival, where you're playing alongside Stone Temple Pilots, Smashing Pumpkins, also big artists. Now, when you're playing something like Beach Life Festival, you can't do the 3-hour show that I've seen you do before, because it's like probably a 45 to 60-minute set. But in your case, do you have kind of like 2 or 3 different sets that you can do where it's like, okay, this is the hits one, this is the I can play whatever I want one, and then this is the people might have seen me the night before and I don't want to give them the same show one? Do you have like those 3 or 4 sets you can do?
I have like a lot more than 3 or 4. I mean, just from like the setup is like, I can do, full shows with the band, and then sometimes go into clubs with the DJ and do like straight the tracks how they are on the album, one after the next. And then sometimes acoustically with like a stripped down storytellers kind of thing. I do that quite a bit. And then, yeah, like you said, there's sometimes like if I'm playing a reggae festival, for example, I might lean like heavier into some of the reggae songs. If I'm playing, when I'm playing night to night, and it becomes like a whole different beast, because I never like to repeat a set, and I come from the whole Fish, Grateful Dead.
Yes.
Like that's musically kind of like where I was born and where I come from. So the whole idea of improvisation, times like the amount of time that I spent on the road, I really found that became a key element to my happiness and my like continuously being in love with the music, was playing so many shows, was improvising. So constantly trying to find ways to like be part of a band that improvises really well, and how do we imagine the songs and how do we keep them fresh, and then how do we also play the songs, how people, really connect to them nostalgically. There's this whole art form to that. I believe has been a big part of my focus over the last like 15 years or whatever.
Yeah, you mentioned the magical names there, Fish and the Grateful Dead. One of my closest friends hosts a podcast about Fish where people talk about the show that they went to and the experience of that whole thing. And I've always read that you were a big Fish guy. So putting together all that, it sounds like the live show is as much of a creative thing for you as the songwriting, because it's the art to doing the correct set list and keeping the energy up. Whereas a lot of artists would be like, I'm going to play these 12 songs in this order. Those are the hits. Done. Not you.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I'm not playing every song in my catalog, but I mean, I have certain songs that I continuously come back to. But the songs are really morphing and changing. And then sometimes I'm coming back and like listening to Chop Them Down off Shake Off the Dust and saying like, oh, wow, like I really want to play that song exactly how it sounds on that record and just throw that into the mix. Certain songs I find kind of like sound better one way maybe than the other. So, but I definitely, had my cousin over yesterday and we were playing my son's music for him. And my older cousin was like, well, you always were performing, does he perform? And I'm like, no, but he's been writing and recording music since he was 12, 13 years old. So like I said, some artists are more like I started out in performance and I feel like in a time period where there were lots of open mics and there wasn't the internet. So you had to actually be seen by people in person. And so, performance was a big part of it. And then recording became something that I had to kind of really focus on. And my love for kind of has grown over the years. And I think that kind of brings us back a little bit to the whole the Matisyahu thing. It's like, I kind of almost feel like in a way with this album, I've almost like for the first time come into like being a recording artist on record. You know what I mean? I mean, my first album is a live album that people know me from Live at Stubbs. So there's always this live element and, Youth is great and Spark Seeker, all these albums, but there's something about the art, like the specific art of recording without an audience there. And I kind of feel like I came into that on this album.
That makes sense to me, but album touring, not the only stuff that you have going on in your life. The Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance, hey, you made that happen. The Creative Community for Peace, you made that happen. So you also make a lot of time and energy for great causes as well. Are you the kind of person that has a calendar or works off of checklists and to-do lists to get all this done?
I do. I work off a calendar. I have like a actual physical paper calendar and I have like highlighters for different topics. I mean, and the majority of my stuff is really like, family. I have like 6 kids, 3 dogs, and a lot going on as a father.
Yeah.
And household stuff, and then also all of the work stuff and the music stuff. So yeah, it's a lot. It's busy, but I like it. I've always been a little bit like high octane. I like to be going on that level.
Well, I don't know if this is too personal, but people have written about you living in Nyack. And I spent a couple of years working in Nyack because the artist management company they used to handle They Might Be Giants, OK Go, Mike Doty, a lot of cool artists. They were around there. Jonathan Demme's film company was out there. You'd occasionally have a Stephen Baldwin sighting, a Bill Murray sighting, a Rosie O'Donnell. What was it that brought you out to Nyack in the first place?
Oh, it was my mom wanted me to move back from LA. And she found this house that she kind of showed me, and I was coming home from tour in Europe and stopping in New York for a couple of days. I went and checked it out, and I fell in love with it. And I ended up having to sell it during COVID, and I'm living now in Jersey. But my time in Nyack was really nice, and especially at the house where I was, it was kind of a famous house. It was this haunted house.
Not the Hopper House?
Not the Hopper House. I believe Hopper may have painted the house.
Wow. Yeah.
for being like, I think for a court case where the Supreme Court, actually deemed it haunted, and I think it may have been the first time that the Supreme Court had ever done that. So if you Google it, you can see it. It's pretty funny. There was never any haunted. I never had any ghost moments really there, but it was kind of like a special time for me, and I was there during COVID, so it was kind of awesome being right on the river there.
Well, the last thing I want to know before I let you go is, being that this is going up on the Jewish Journal, you're one of those artists where if I was a kid and I knew, hey, Matisyahu was Jewish, I would have loved Hebrew school a lot more. They didn't, in my Hebrew school, they didn't go like the Beastie Boys are Jewish. Kiss, half of Kiss is Jewish. David Lee Roth's Jewish. Had they done that and named comedians and Saturday Night Live people, that would have hooked me forever. They didn't do that. In your case, I believe 2 members of Fish are Jewish, but who were the first like Jewish musicians that it caught your eyes or ears that they were Jewish? You went, oh, that's cool.
Honestly, I don't think there was any until I came into contact with Shlomo Carlebach's music. And the way I came into contact with his music, he had already passed away, but I was looking for a synagogue to pray when I was in college. And that's where I started going. People, would tell me, you have to check this place out. And that's where I heard, honestly, I feel like where I heard, maybe for the second time, Jewish music that I really kind of felt inspired by,
So it wasn't the Beastie Boys or anything like that.
So I didn't associate like you said, I didn't associate any of them with being Jewish. In 90s, New York, 2000, mostly 90s. I was growing up. We knew of some a few MCs who happened to be Jewish.
MC Search and
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Third base and we knew we had heard that the Beastie Boys were Jewish, you know what I mean? But didn't really I don't know, that didn't really, we didn't really connect to it. I don't feel like,
Was David Lee Roth ever an influence on you?
No, but I did go to kindergarten with the guitar player from Kiss's daughter, Monique. And I remember her because she wore red lipstick and we were 5 years old. And one of my few memories as a child is her father picking her up from school. I remember this creature walking in to the preschool with hair and I was like, what is that? And I think I was already fascinated by Monique because of her lipstick. And then I saw that was her. She was going with him. I didn't know if it was what it was. And I never put it together or anything, but I had this memory. And then someone later told me who it was. And it's pretty funny, isn't that?
Ace Frehley's daughter, who I think had a scene in Detroit Rock City. I'm not sure if it got
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that she's done some acting.
Well, there you go. I don't think I missed anything, but the bottom line is you've got these wonderful nonprofit causes, the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance, Creative Community for Peace, the self-titled album, the upcoming gig at Beach Life Festival. You're a busy guy. You're still doing art at a great high level. Keep up all the greatness, and thanks for the many years of great entertainment.
You're welcome. Thanks so much.
Paltrocast.